This is the Athletic Football Show.
Welcome to the Athletic Football Show. I'm Robert Mays. Joining me tonight
is my good friend Nate Tice. Nate, how you doing?
I'm doing very, very well. That was an interesting game. Just, I don't know how else to describe those types of games now. It's just like the color matchup is like the thing that just stands out the most. It's like, okay, it's a kind of a, we got red versus blue game. That I don't know, like if that makes sense. It was kind of like, it was a game, a match happened. And I feel like that's just exactly how I felt with that game.
I mean, we saw history tonight. We saw history made tonight. The Giants blitzed on 84% of Brock Purdy's dropbacks in this game, the highest mark in any single game since the NGS era began in 2016. So the highest blitz rate in one single game. Wink has like 4 of the other 5 of them, I'm sure.
Of course.
But I thought that game plan on defense, and we can get into a larger scale conversation here, was indicative of a team that just knew it was completely outmatched. And that's how the Giants felt on both sides of the ball tonight. And the weirdness of the defensive game plan and the aggressiveness of it allowed them to stay in the game for probably longer than they should have. We can talk about Brock Purdy's play and how good or bad it was, because I'm seeing a lot of revisionist history on the internet right now. But the Giants really, you could feel the talent mismatch on both sides of the ball from the start. And eventually the Niners are going to pull away in this game because of that. And that's how it all played out.
When the 49ers role players are still beating you, and then it's like, and then you only can hold off so much and have so much defense against the stars of the 49ers that it's just like, it felt like it was going to pop. It was like, okay, Debo's getting there, and then finally he popped in the second half. Same with Kittle. They just like, they're peppering them, but then it was Juwan Jennings getting huge first downs. It was Ronnie Bell. Ronnie Bell getting his first.
That touchdown was actually pretty sweet.
He's pretty
getting
talented.
his feet down on that touchdown was actually pretty sweet.
I think he's had injuries. I think that was kind of like why he dropped a little bit, but he has some talent. But it was, you had to throw it. It was like better to burn out than to fade away. That's how Wank is gonna play. Like he's just gonna come at you, gash or be gash. And guess what? Early on, first and second down, they were kind of taking it to the 49ers, at least holding their own more than they should have, and keeping.
They absolutely were. The Niners converted a 3rd and 12, a 3rd and 15, and another 3rd and long in the first quarter of this game.
That screen was a backbreaker. That one screen conversion by Debo. That was just.
They had multiple ones like that. There was the one to McCaffrey on 3rd and long, and at one point late in the second quarter, Herbstreit was quoting the stats, and he's like, man, Purdy's just red hot on 3rd down. He's 7-9 on 3rd down. On those 7 completions, or his 9 attempts on those first 9 third downs, he averaged negative 4.4 air yards to the sticks on those 9 attempts. It was just a bizarre game. He played better in the second half, but it was just such a strange performance and a strange game plan from the Giants defense because of the talent mismatch that it took us some time for the Niners to sort through it. But there were some ugly moments for them offensively in the first half, and the skill position players are the ones making most of those plays even into the second half.
Oh, I mean, there's several throws, even the good ones on the kind of stall drives early on. I think that's the best way I could put it, is that like even the good plays were kind of like almost bad plays. I mean, they had, obviously the tip ball that like,
it was an immaculate reception at one point in the first half.
Even the Juwan Jennings had a catch well behind him. That was a great grab on the move. Like he's playing really good ball right now. But that's kind of how it was. A lot of throws with pressure in his face that he's completing, which is like some credit to Purdy, but it's also, it's like doesn't get dinged. Like he just kind of is just bulletproof, like with some of these throws and some of these plays. And that's what it just feels like. It's like, I would just keep playing him too. It's like nothing but good things happen when he's on the field for us. So like, let's just keep rolling him out there, because yes, they pound the rock, but even sometimes the run game was kind of getting a little kind of squeezed. I mean, I kept feeling like a run was about to pop to CMC, but they actually didn't have that huge gash they usually see maybe when Wink is bringing a ton of blitzes. And I think some of the blitzes too weren't yes, on 3rd down, there were some crazy like cover 0 stuff, but on 1st and 2nd down, it was more like the standard 5 guys across, 5 guys straight rushing, kind of squeeze the pocket, make it tight, get hands up. And they had some batted balls and all that. But then you get Deebo Samuel 7.5 yards open, according to Next Gen Stats, on that one catch and run. Like, then that
he is 20 yards after the catch, breaking 3 tackles as he does it. Brock Purdy was fine tonight. Looking at his box score stats as an indication of how he played, to me, is incredibly misleading. So this was just another reminder that the skill position talent on the Niners is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like what Debo did tonight and the version of Debo that we're getting right now is insane. And Brandon Ayuk didn't even play in this game. That's what it felt like on offense. To me, though, the more telling, more important matchup in this game is what happened on the other side of the ball. The Giants' offensive line is in such disrepair that they could not function as an NFL offense against the 49ers tonight. That there's really no way around that. Wink blitzed on 84% of Brock Purdy's dropbacks. The Giants blitzed on 38% of Daniel Jones's dropbacks. And part of that is because they knew if we create 5 one-on-ones, you cannot move the football. And that's what it felt like really from the middle of the first quarter on. They had absolutely no shot in any sort of one-on-one situation to block those guys. And that's understandable. You have your all-world left tackle is out. A backup guard is now playing left tackle. You have 2 more backup guards, and you're playing against the best defensive line, arguably, in the NFL. And every single time Hargrave or Armstead had a one-on-one against the interior, it was over. But that's how it felt. They literally could not function as an offense because of the mismatch between those 2 lines up front.
And they just squeezed everything down the field. Third down, they get into those 5-man fronts with Fred Warner that they're really leaning into even more this year. And then, like you're saying, they just create chaos up front and you're dead. Or they just get Hargrave just throwing the center of the guard 5 yards back and winning and pushing Daniel Jones out of the pocket. And like some of those plays were even dead. Even some of the simple point and shoot stuff that they have Daniel Jones do, on especially on passing downs, like second and long and third down. He couldn't even get to the read because the pocket blew up so quick. Yeah. And that's what you expect when you're having a backup offensive lineman all over the place, like just at some important positions, a young center, and then you got a defense that just is, it's got stars everywhere and awesome role players everywhere, and they play with their hair on fire. Every passing concept felt squeezed. It was just one of those anaconda games from this defense where it's just like, they just close on the concepts. Okay, Daniel Jones is breaking contain. Here comes, Drake Greenlaw sprinting down and making them get rid of the ball. That's what it just felt. They just couldn't get any breathing room the entire night.
And they tried a few of those vertical throws out to Waller down the sideline, but that's not his game. Him against a corner outside the numbers, he's not going to create the separation.
He's a catch and run guy.
Yes, exactly. And he's not going to create the separation that Debo is on that sluggo on the touchdown. That option is not available to you. You can say, well, the Niners are facing pressure all night because of all those blitzes. It's a different sort of receiving core and it's a different sort of pressure. So that's just what it felt like at some point during the second half. It's like they can't even function as an NFL offense in this game. The question now becomes, how does it happen over the rest of the year? When does Andrew Thomas get back? When does the rest of the interior get back? Because this was not supposed to be what the New York Giants looked like this season. They were a top 10 offense by efficiency metrics last year with a gum and toothpicks type of approach, as you like to put it. They had more talent. They spent along the offensive line a little bit, and it was just supposed to be a better, cleaner, more realistic NFL level operation on that side of the ball. And we're 3 games in, and they are extremely far away from that outside of one half against the Arizona Cardinals. So are we at a place where if Thomas misses a bunch more time and they don't get healthier up front, this is just a lost season for a team paying its quarterback $40 million a year? Because that move and some of the others they made this offseason come with a level of urgency that having a lost season is pretty devastating at this stage.
It feels just so flipped, as far as what the whole timeline is. It feels like last year should have been this year. Obviously salary cap stuff is going to, just how the tempo of everything is, how it just all feels. It feels like there is that urgency, but they're in quicksand. Honestly, the offense, it just, obviously they have the injury. Saquon Barkley is such an important part of this offense. It's so much of what they do. But other than that, it's like you pay a quarterback to lift you up in games like this, to at least make it manageable, even against a top defense. I know last week it's Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford's a different tier quarterback than Daniel Jones. But watch him with Tutu Atwell and Puka Nacua. And a better offensive line, but just shredding them, but at least pushing the ball. Everything just, again, feels tight and it just feels hard. And when you spend money like this, especially at quarterback, it shouldn't feel as hard. There should be at least some way that you can just make a living, even with an offensive line that's leaky.
Hopefully it gets better this year, but even if it's only better incrementally, he has a $47 million cap hit next year.
Yeah.
So you're potentially staring down a lot more games. Not like this, because you're not going to play the Niners every week, but games that are still going to be decently ugly against real fronts. They play the Eagles twice. They play the Cowboys again.
So, yeah, the Seahawks next week, which is kind of like That's gonna be helpful. Like, yeah, exactly. That's kind of more of a fair matchup. So it's like, okay, maybe get you guys back in a straight order.
But this team plays in the NFC East. They play
Yeah.
Washington's front twice. They play the Eagles front twice, and they play the Cowboys again.
Yeah.
That's 5 of their remaining, what, 14 games?
They also play the Jets, the Bills, the Patriots. So there's not good. They play Aaron Donald. They play the Saints. Remember, we're talking about the Saints today. Anybody want to listen to our week 3 preview show? So they got some real matchups the rest of the way. It's not like it's going to get no breathing room for this entire offensive operation or just like anybody.
So now you get to the end of the season potentially. Let's say optimistically, this version of the Giants goes 7-10, right?
Okay.
Like if they manage to turn things around a little bit, you're 7-10. You go into next year. Quarterback's making $47 million against the cap. You have $56 million in cap space, but the roster is essentially just him, Andrew Thomas.
Yeah.
You paid for Dexter Lawrence, and then you have a couple more pieces on defense that you've paid. You've got like a few expensive pieces, one of them being a $47 million quarterback, and then some money to spend and a bunch of holes to fill. It just is an interesting team building space to be in when you've already committed to this guy. The commitment to him, in my mind, included trying to be competitive this season when you gave him that contract. And for this to potentially be a lost year as part of that equation, that's hard to stomach if you're Joe Shane, Brian Daboll, this fan base. And that's kind of what it feels like right now.
Well, they're already switching play callers. That's usually a big like alarm bells going off for an operation. It can turn around like we see with the Eagles that we talked about a couple of years ago, but it's usually this one felt so early in the middle of a game that it just felt like just more about let's try something different. And I mean, that's what it feels like. It's like this was more of the same. Like they have to design the offense this way based on what they have. And especially it's like, man, I know Saquon's a good player, but it's like it really feels like this when he's not playing. Like where's
Saquon Barkley is not the difference in this game.
No, exactly. But it's like, where's the receiving talent? I mean, he would help a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah. But I know, but this is what else they got. Like, who are you paying? Who are you drafting? Like, where's Jalen Hyatt? Where are all these guys? I know Wendell Robinson has an injury, but it's like, where are the difference makers that you're supposed to be drafting and kind of with this young talent? I know they have these kind of, middle-aged talent. I don't know, mid-20s is middle-aged in the NFL, but second contract guys that are very talented are getting them now. But it's, who are these guys that you're supposed to be drafting? Where are the difference makers?
And the problem is one of those guys was supposed to be Evan Neal. He doesn't seem to have taken a step forward in year 2, which is a concern after you drafted him in the top 5. Yeah. Where was Kayvon Thibodeau tonight?
Nope.
When they're not blitzing, they struggle to create pressure and to create disruption. And they drafted 2 guys in the top 10 that I don't think stood out in a good way by any stretch tonight or for most of this season so far. Nope. So that's going to be a problem. Those building blocks that you're supposed to have.
A lot of Thibodeau's numbers are inflated too. Like I think he's a fine player, but it's like, or like, cause like you'll see a lot of pressure numbers. It's because Wink brings all that heat. So he gets a lot of free looks. He does take advantage of them, but it's like, that's another thing too. Some people just look at his metrics and go, oh, look at it. It's like, well, that's why you got to watch sometimes to see how he gets those, because he gets a lot of cheapies. So I mean just to totally damn him, but he's just got to look at it sometimes.
You'd hope that this gets better with better health along the offensive line and you can get back to functionality on offense. Yeah. But even if it's 50% better, 60% better, this still feels like it might be a below average unit that struggles to keep pace with the real teams in the NFC. And that just was not the hope coming into the season. So it's hard to look at this game and look at the way the first, let's say 10 of the first 12 quarters have gone for the New York Giants this season and feel any good feelings, especially coming out of last year. So we buried the Giants 3 games into the year. Well, let's wrap up here with what the outlook feels like for this Niners team. I mean, this, even in a down day where they weren't super crisp in the first half, they got jumped on at times by a bizarre game plan. They put up 30 and won by 3 scores. And that to me feels like the mark of one of those really good complete teams, is even when they're not on it on a given night, they're still blowing the doors off of people that are worse than them.
The Kyle Shanahan loves, I mean, everybody tries to live on first and second down and get first downs there, get explosive plays there, be efficient there. And the fact that they can just go, oh yeah, we also go 9 for 16 on third down today and get explosive plays there and huge plays there. And it's just, This team got 26 first downs today, which usually you'd be like, man, what a performance. And this one just felt, oh yeah, it was good. It was solid. And it's like, that's the highs that this offense is at. I mean, the offensive line too. I mean, Giants are a tough matchup. Like you mentioned, Dexter Lawrence, Leonard Williams. And I mean, they're doing some good stuff up front. Like those were hard-earned 80-something yards that Christian McCaffrey had. Like those were kind of like there was a lot of steady singles tonight. Usually we see those explosives, but it's like, man, this offense can win that way. And even when Purdy isn't like perfect, they can win that way, or at least even being like very consistent throughout the game. It's like, it's just that they're just very, very, very freaking good. It's kind of cool to watch it.
Obviously, when they're firing on all cylinders against a team playing normal defensive football, we see what they can do. But even in a game like tonight, where they have to play this very strange brand of offense and get the ball out of his hands extremely quickly, they can do that too because of who they're getting the ball to and whose hands they're getting into. The idea that they can just spit it out to Kittle or Debo or whoever and have that sort of offensive performance, that's the type of playmaking talent that we're talking about with this team. He can average 4.7 air yards per attempt like he did in this game and still have them be humming offensively, because all that matters is that those guys get the ball in their hands and go to work. And that tonight was another one of those games. And
their main ball in hands, go to work guy wasn't even playing, and they still look like this. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Debo kind of had that moment tonight, and this is the benefit of playing with someone that's a little bit chaotic like Brock Purdy. It was the Debo's touchdown on the go ball. I had that same kind of feeling with like AJ Brown. Whereas instead of it's, in the AJ Brown and the Titans offense, remember, it's like, oh, how is he going to go vertical? How's he going to look going vertical? And it's like, it turns out really freaking good. And it's like, same with Debo. It's like, oh yeah, you could do that too. You could just win going vertical, like just on a straight go ball. Like, I'm better than you and cover zero. It's like, that's pretty sweet that you could just do that as well. On top of the yak stuff, on top of carrying, like bouncing off 3 tacklers and stuff. It's ridiculous what he could do.
His monster season, he had a lot of those downfield targets. Like at his best, he is that sort of threat within the offense. And that's when things get really, really scary. And that's what this Niners offense feels like right now. And the defense, really, really scary. The Hargrave thing is like, goddamn. I mean, every single time they had one of those 5-0 looks, and it was, if you slide the center to Armstead, Hargrave's going to eat. If you slide the center to Armstead, Hargrave's going to eat. Like that's what it felt like. And it didn't matter which side you picked. One of those guys was going to win that one-on-one inside. Granted, against backup guards, against an offensive line, again, that's in tatters, but it still is promising when you look at what they can do when they create those sort of matchups with those 5-0 looks, because they're going to be better than pretty much every offensive line they play. Today was just a little bit more drastic than normal.
Yeah. I mean, not every offense that they're going to go against is going to have 5 startable offensive linemen, and there's going to be injuries that crop up, and you're just going to bring that heat snap after snap after snap.
This one just had like 1.5.
Yeah.
It had a right tackle that's not playing great, a rookie center, and then 3 backups. So 1.5 is pretty generous. And that's what it felt like tonight.
Yeah. And I mean, just think how NFL season goes. I'm just looking at their schedule. They play the Cardinals. It's like, name a starter: Paris Johnson, DJ Humphries. Okay. Other than that, so but the Cowboys. Yeah, yes, good one. So they go Cowboys, Browns, which is interesting, but then Vikings. What have we talked about? Just like the interior woes there. Like that is just, not everyone has a complete line. I mean, as I name off teams that actually have decent lines, like the Browns, it's like, dang it, that's not my example. That's not good for this. But this it's so hard to block them when they only rush 4, and then it's when they do rush 5, you have to win in 2 seconds. Oh, we don't have guys that can win in 2 seconds. Then like that's the formula that they're doing, and they keep you in the pocket. If you try to scramble, which is another way that you can beat that, is if they want to be chaotic. Okay, I'm going to break contain and run for a first down. Their linebackers are just flying down. Their pass rush is running after them. They have so much speed. It's just, they take away the answers that you usually work against them. When they're in soft coverage, they run high lows, and offenses should run high lows against it. Doesn't matter, because they have the hive mind spine of their defense. It's impossible against this defense right now.
Yeah, they felt like a truly elite team, and it was just disappointing and disheartening that the Giants felt so far away from one of those really elite teams, because that gap was not supposed to be as big as it seems right now coming into this season.
They were both playoff teams last year. It's kind of funny. Also, I want to say Thanos would have been very proud of Kyle Shanahan's balance tonight. 39 dropbacks, 39 designed runs. It's yeah, I love it. Some coaches,
All
I'm
right.
probably him. They keep track, run pass. Where am I at? He kept it perfectly balanced tonight.
On that note, that's all we got. Appreciate you guys listening. If you have not listened to our week 3 preview, that is available in your podcast feeds, wherever you listen to your podcast. Please go check that out. Other pods from this week, Nate and Dane doing Prospects to Pros. In the Pocket with Chase Daniel, our post week 2 episode, breaking down some of the best and worst quarterback performances in the league last week. And Football GM with Mike Sando and Randy Mueller will be coming your way on Saturday. If you have not liked and subscribed to the YouTube channel and you're currently watching this, please do it. We're doing a lot of fun stuff on YouTube this year. You can go watch Wind the Clock that Nate is doing every week, breaking down a key concept from that week in the NFL every single Monday. So fun stuff coming your way on YouTube. Please go like, please go subscribe. Please be involved in the YouTube channel. We love doing it. We love hanging out with you guys. We will be back on Sunday night right here, recapping all things week 3. Until then, appreciate you guys listening. We'll talk to you soon.